remember that box of paper punches? What happened to them? Are they gathering dust somewhere in your craft room? Well, it's time to go on a hunt and find them because I'm having a paper punch party. If you happen to have some heart punches in your stash, you're going to love today's video. So come create with me. Today's layout is inspired by this page right here. You see those hearts in the background? They are actually a cut file, and I'm going to recreate this look using just my paper punches. The smaller punch is 1 inch wide and the bigger one here is 1.5 inches. Of course, I'll leave links to everything in the description box below so you too can recreate this page. I have used the cut file as a template. See those little crosses inside each of the hearts? That's going to indicate to me where I need to put one of my punched hearts. Now, I know that you don't have the cut file, so I've included this footage here. You can pause the video to see all of the measurements of all of my markings. If you're not too worried about it being an exact copy, you could just copy along and go by sight. I'm working with Pink Fresh Studios' Sunshine on My Mind collection, and I have created quite a bit with this collection so far, and I do have some paper scraps. So I'm going to start with those, and I'll punch out a bunch of the hearts in the 2 different sizes. I end up working with around 6 different prints, and I really just wanted a random selection. So this is perfect for paper scraps, just like this one, very small piece of leftover paper. And as long as you can get maybe 3 hearts out of each paper scrap, I feel like it's worth adding that pattern into the mix. You will want to be quite mindful though about how the pattern papers coordinate with each other. This is an element that's going to take up a lot of real estate on the background of your layout, so it's not really the time for any of those ugly pattern papers. You want designs that work really well together, that coordinate with your photo. You can even go with quite a subtle print. This is almost white on white, and I actually really love that I was able to include some of these hearts into the mix. I feel like it softens this background a little bit and helps it to be not too busy. You do need to be mindful of that. I love that you can punch out a couple of hearts and place them and test them out. You're not really committing to anything yet, and if you are working with paper scraps, well, you haven't really lost much if it doesn't turn out to be the perfect pattern. In terms of placement, I am positioning the hearts over the center of each of those little crosses that I've made, and I am making sure to mix the size up, so large heart and small heart, as well as the colors. Now, if you are using up some paper scraps and you did only manage to get 3 or 4 hearts out of your scrap, just be mindful to spread those prints well across the page. You want to kind of give the impression that you've got more of those than you actually do. So it's also a good idea to have a bit of a plan of where your photo is going to be placed. If you do only happen to have 3 hearts in a particular print, you don't want to put one of those hearts underneath where your photo will end up. Things are getting serious because I'm gluing stuff down. I am just going to go one by one and put the smallest amount of glue on top of the little X that I placed as a marker. For the pattern papers that have a geometric print, so I've got lines and the grid one there, I am just going to make sure that everything is nice and square using my T-square ruler. I am going to be adding some stitching to the hearts here in a moment, so I'm not using very much glue at all. It really is just a placeholder until I can get that stitching done. The stitching is optional, of course, and actually while I think of it, I did just create an ultimate guide on how to stitch on paper. So if you're brand new to stitching and you'd like to add it to your paper projects, that video would be perfect for you to watch next. I'll be sure to link it in the description box below. You can see there too the hearts that run along the right hand edge there. I have trimmed them off ever so slightly just to keep that clean line of the border. The stitching is done, and I've actually just sewn down the very center of every single heart. Yes, that did take a little while, but I love how this turned out. And what I love the most is that I can actually flip up the left and right hand side of each heart, and it gives the background this beautiful texture. Here's a look at the layout side by side, and you can see the hearts in the background do end up looking quite similar. With the work on the background complete, it's now time to think about photo position and embellishments. I do want to keep the elements similar to the other page, but I am going to have to mix things up a bit here because it was using a portrait photo and this photo is landscape. This collection that I'm working with did not actually have any puffy titles, but I went into my stash and I found these. They are from a much older collection and I am going to use those because they're the perfect shade of like peachy pink. I am going to go and make up my own title. It's going to say Summer Story. I am going to mix in these white puffy stickers as well. These are all from Pink Fresh Studio, so they do coordinate really well. I don't often mix and match collections, but when I do, I will always stick within the same manufacturer. For the alphas that are individual letters, I am going to use my alignment guide here. I love this thing so much because you can actually audition your title anywhere on your page before you commit to sticking it down. You'll see me do that in a moment here. The problem with some of these title elements are the loopy letters. See the Y there in story? I actually had a lot of trouble placing it. I didn't feel like there was a lot of options, but I did like how it touched that top right hand corner of the photo. So I'm going to start by placing that first. I can then build my title backwards. So I know that the word summer has to go on the left hand side of story. So generally speaking, you would read left to right, top to bottom. So it makes sense that it would go somewhere there above the T. And as it so happened, I like that it nestled in there against the T. So I am just going to make that nice and straight. And did you see how easily I was able to place them from the guide onto the paper? Love that about that thing. I'm super happy with how that's looking, so I will need some more smaller embellishments now. I am going to use that puffy sticker heart. I think that that's a really good way to take the hearts from the background into the embellishment clusters. I also want to find some floral pieces that I can tuck behind my photo, and the trickiest part of this was actually finding pieces that were quite neutral. This collection is a summer collection and it's got some beautiful colors in it, but what I've worked with so far is quite subtle and soft, so I need things that are going to coordinate with that. They say that necessity is the mother of invention, and I did find this beautiful cluster. This was actually perfect in terms of color tone, but I didn't have anything to go with it. So I thought I would get brave and I'll chop it in half and have the largest piece here on the left, and then I'll position a smaller piece here on the right. It's kind of like using a 2-for-1 coupon. To fill the clusters out, I am going to add in some extra leaves, and I was lucky. I did find 2 in this really soft green tone, so I'm going to go with those, and it's really just about finding a balance here. I definitely want the cluster on the left to feel more substantial than the one on the right, but I do want that one on the right to sort of fill out that top corner there a bit. I think it's time we talked about flow. I do mention this quite a lot in my videos, but I've had so many new subscribers, I thought I'd just go through it for this layout here. Flow is the way that the eye will travel across the page. As you're creating your layout, you'll want to keep this in mind and you'll want to go with the flow of what would naturally happen. It's much easier to create a layout that goes with the flow than it is to fight against it. Keep in mind too that your eye is naturally drawn to the photo, especially if there are people in it. And of course, we would never want our scrapbook supplies to overtake the attention of the photo. For me, the photo should always be that first focus. For this page, I'm hoping that the eye would immediately travel to the photo, which I feel it would because of the contrast of the darkness in the photo and that light background, and then go from the photo up to my title, reading left to right as we naturally do, and then follow the line of the clusters. That's exactly why the one on the right is up higher than the one on the left. So it's going to make sort of like a backwards C shape, if you imagine, starting at the top of the S in summer and then going across the text and then down towards the bottom left-hand corner of the page. And that's the layout complete. Of course, I am going to leave you with some close-up images. I want you to be able to see the layers in the clusters and of course the stitched detail in the heart background there. I also want to show you the layout side by side so you can get a clear look at how I've recreated the cut file using just my paper punches. If this is something you'd like to see more of, I'll be sure to link a couple of other videos just like this one in the description box below. Are you looking for even more ways to use your paper punches? In this video, I used a simple circle and butterfly punch to recreate another cut file design. You will love how it turned out, so go watch that video next. I'll see you all again very soon. Until then, bye!